Well, I sure would like a cigarette.
Well, why don't you bust out a Dawson?
A Dawson, that's right. Your favorite.
Dawson cigarettes. That's right, Dawson cigarettes. Nothing beats a Dawson except a possum.
I wish you would stop smoking the damn cigarettes.
Hey, your wife said stop smoking. Didn't you know these are health aware?
Hello and welcome back to the BDRP Early Show. I'm your host, D. Doss, and today, like most other days, I'm going to freestyle an idea that was in the back of my mind and present it as if it's been written for weeks. So, first off, I'd like to thank Tim Kumbo Baker for stopping by, and he is in our prayers. He's dealing with some illness in his family that came up suddenly, and we know the fiery darts of the adversary. We know his methodology and his ways. So he's definitely in the prayers of the believer, his brothers and sisters in the faith. Folks, and I got a very special guest that a lot of you have even written me about. So first of all, let me welcome him back. That's right, Merle the Pearl, my co-host, Mr. Merlin. What's up, Merlin? It's been a hot minute.
Oh, yeah. Been busy.
Yes, and boy, howdy, you said a mouthful in just that one sentence. But, you know, glory be unto God, the Creator, for that busyness. Brother,
Amen.
the Imaginary Dogman, and this stems off what the theory that we're going to present. So we can just, hitch to that wagon. But I was thinking, these people put a lot of trust in us. They put a lot of trust. First, let me get in here and see if it sounds all right. Say hello to everyone. Yeah, can everybody hear? Everything okay? Today we had Mr. Mainline Mitch, Mr. Kumbo Baker, the professor, stopped in. James Bowen, or G Reaper, Mid-South Sasquatch, BDRP Old Schooler. Michael Stacks joined us, Lucas Williams, Brooks. Yeah, that's crazy. It's just those people wide open in there, which is awesome. Thank y'all for joining us, and you're going to be glad you didn't miss this show, because we're going to present you rather with a theory, and it's the truth of this reality that we share. But first, I was thinking today that you guys put a lot of innate trust in us as show hosts, as field investigators, to translate to you truth. And the truth only comes from one source. And it's got a capital T. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is truth. And when we speak of truth, we speak of him. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this subject that would tell big fish stories. To not be mean about it, they tell big fish stories. A lot of folks, and their guests as well as hosts, as well as field researchers, believe it or not, they will have an experience, and that experience will turn into an encounter, which those two things are different. They will experience seeing one of these creatures from afar, but when they recount it, they're just a little bit closer than, what they actually were. And I thought about this, and it's pertinent. And it's a responsibility. I look at it as a responsibility for us as we translate this information to you as show hosts, as field investigators, and as even guests on someone else's show or podcast, that we be 100% forthcoming in our experiences with not only these creatures, but these spiritual entities, the situations surrounding our experience. Because what may seem just mundane to us or non-pertinent to what we're telling folks can be the key that unlocks it all. For example, the poltergeist experience that I experienced down in North Texas when I was staying there with an ex-girlfriend. We got a place together. We blended our families. I was a single dad. She was a single mom. There was all the time these ghost shows on TV. I come home, the kids, the ex, they're watching these ghost adventurers, ghost investigations, or whatever it's called. Every show that had ghost in it is being played on TV. Well, Merle, we know for an unequivocal fact that those aren't any more ghosts, then I'm an astronaut. They're wicked
Yeah.
spirits. You know what I'm saying? Like, call a spade a spade, they're wicked spirits. And familial and familiar, which I think those are interchangeable. Familiar spirits. And they sit in that invisible world smoking a cigar with their legs crossed, watching you in your most private, intimate, secret moments.
Yep.
And they'll project the image of since you already subscribed to them, you're watching these shows and whatnot, you're giving them power over you, and they'll project that they're, you know, your sweet old grandma, and you'll start smelling the perfume that you wore to church, because the more you give them, the more they can take, and the more they can replace what you had with whatever they want. So that you're not really smelling a perfume. They're projecting that into you somehow. I don't know how the mechanisms of that operate, and I don't really want to know, but I know that's the truth of it. So this poltergeist experience that we were experiencing, I was not operating within my authority that God gave me. You know, I told him, hey, that's a big no-no. We don't watch that stuff in here. But then I'd sit down after work, working on overnights. Everybody's asleep, and I'd watch the same things. And me just having that mind of figuring things out, I'd be like, okay, well, how's this fake? There's a voice coming up out of this well in the bottom of this restaurant. I mean, it's pretty clear. How they doing this? And when I ran through the logic of it, it's like Sherlock Holmes said, eliminating all that untangible and all that. How does it go? How's that phrase go, Merlin?
If you eliminate all the, what is it? All the
The
improbable things. Yep.
What's left is
What's left?
probable in the answer, something along those lines.
Yeah.
When you eliminate crazy stuff, even no matter how crazy the last thing is, that's probably your answer.
Yeah. If you eliminate all the erroneous information or all the possibilities, however improbable, whatever's left must be the truth or something like that.
No matter what's left, no matter how improbable, is the truth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then in that you have to accept things like supernatural experiences. And there was this atheist who was a rank devil, whose name I don't remember, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you, because you'd look him up and be just bombarded with the wickedness that he was talking. But this guy was a professor at Oxford University, and he was an atheist by name only. The man was an antichrist Satanist. It wasn't that he didn't believe in the spirit world and all that stuff. It was the fact that he hated God, and he hated the fact that people believed in God. And the evidence that's proof positive is later on in life, somebody found out that he grew up in a Christian home. So much so that his father was a priest in the Anglican church. So this guy had an axe to grind, right? But he comes under the guise of being this super intellectual who's going to cross his legs and tell us how crazy we are for believing in the Lord Jesus Christ and in the spirit world. This same gentleman was afraid to go inside of a haunted house. He would refuse to go in a haunted house, and when he finally, relented, and when a journalist asked him why, he said that his mind isn't ready to quantify the idea of a ghost being a tangible possibility. And I think that's verbatim. I'm pretty sure it is. In other words, take all that intellectual jargon out of the way. I've been pulling this flim-flam because I hate Christians and I hate God for so long that I can't be presented with a ghost, because then I'd have to deal with the fact that I'm a liar. You know what I mean? Like, so, and it's just,
then I might have to do something about it.
I'm going to have to do something about it. He's going to have to face that mortality. You know what I mean? We could play so many games with God thinking that we're getting over, which we're not.
Yeah.
We're having that discussion today, people who would come to someone who they know have a relationship that fostered a real relationship with our Father in heaven, the proper way. And instead of doing the same, which we're tasked to do as individuals, as human beings, they would go to this person who has this relationship and try to run their gimmicks and their schemes through this person. If this person acquiesced or agreed, even in a pseudo type of way, they've gotten this power now to go and just go full tilt boogie into rebellion and sin. And but anyways, going back to I said that to say this, because it does apply into this dogman thing. There has to be some sort of journalistic integrity, if you want to call it that. And we all need to be held to account. We, being everybody, myself included.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear me say something that you don't necessarily agree with, or you think that I got the information wrong, I've always been open to criticism, obviously, you know. So, and that should be across the board. Especially if you're a show host, you should be holding yourself accountable because you're speaking to people. You're speaking to someone who has an eternal soul, and that soul's going to go somewhere when they close their eyes in this world. And
Yeah.
I take a certain responsibility because I know that. I know it in my soul. So I have to translate the truth, or I'm going to be punished. That's just all there is to it. And that's where we get to this imaginary dogman. So you get these people that folks just innately trust, right? They've been around for 10, 20, 30 years, or even 5 years. They can be just that charismatic to where they can say the sky is green and nobody will look up when they go outside. They just accept it. There has to be some breaking point. There has to be a dam built of some kind where people start questioning this stuff, because I think people are just allowing themselves to be inundated with the knowledge of it without having any kind of discernment, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really where I was going with. That's the condensed version of the title of this show. And it's an open-ended question because I've asked myself that many, many times, and the only person I can be responsible for is myself, you know. But
It's a dangerous game with some heavy stakes.
it is, and I don't think people really take that into consideration. You know, they look at it as, oh, well, this is a subject or a topic that I'm interested in. I want to add my 2 cents, and they just go on about their business, which is fine, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
dangerous game with dangerous stakes. These things are real. They're alive out there in the woods, probably near some of you folks in this chat and the folks that'll listen afterwards. And if all these scary stories that we listen to are real, how can we just kind of giggle and laugh and pull the covers over our head, because sometimes it gets kind of ooky spooky, and go on about our day, or go take our family on a camping trip or a picnic without having any kind of spiritual discernment? And
Let's take it further. What if only 2% of them is real?
there we go. And I mean, that's getting into the real questions of it. What's the
Yeah.
percent of this stuff, and the percent of everything that's being taken is just across the board truth?
Yeah.
There's a typology.
If any of it,
Yeah,
if any of it's real, then we have to understand there's real consequences for this, and not be giving out information that we aren't certain of. I mean, that's
right. And that's
dangerous.
100% certain. Like, you know, we can be wrong. So, folks are wrong sometimes. Folks translate information incorrectly. With not having some spirit of deception and trying to lie, they just literally translate information incorrectly, or they don't get verbatim the real pertinent information that was given to them. They don't translate that as it was given to them for whatever reason. That's still just as dangerous as somebody going with the intentions to deceive. And that comes into that personal responsibility and accountability. And it was a little bit different when I started. There was we'd hold each other accountable. You know what I mean? There was more of a sense of togetherness for sure. Because at that time there was this innocence to it. Everybody really wanted to know, no matter what the answer was, they wanted to know what was real about this stuff. And now we've moved forward to there being a typology, type 1, type A, type B, or whatever. And if you stray outside of that, they'll turn and rend you. You know what I mean? This gentleman told me one time he saw a dogman creature with floppy ears, like a basset hound, right? And I could tell the guy, just the trepidation the guy had in telling me that he had probably told other people, and those other people didn't receive it as he thought they would, right?
Yeah.
But the man was telling the truth. What he said he experienced, he believed wholeheartedly. Now, whether it was delusion or not, you know, I believe he saw it, what he said. He said that this creature had no fur, no hair, that it was skin like a man's, and it had hands like a man, but its feet were a malformed version of a human feet mixed with dog, like a dog's foot. And it had the break in the foot, like a dog does, or the haunches or whatever. And it had the head of like a basset hound with no hair and floppy ears. And he said it crossed the road in front of him, looked at him, right in the eyes. It had human-looking eyes, but the face and head of this basset hound. And, hearing that, you're like, oh, shit. Like, because I'm a very
Yeah.
visual person. Somebody describes it, I'm painting the picture in my mind, and it was a trip. And I could tell the way this guy described it and the emotions that I could hear, that it traumatized the man. And this is back when third year doing this stuff. And I was like, well, brother, I'm sorry that happened to you. Do you want to come share that on the channel? He was like, no, I just want to talk to somebody who wouldn't really.
Yeah, they would believe him and
Yeah, they would
wouldn't
believe him.
make fun of him.
Yep. And I never heard from him again. You know what I
How
mean?
sad is that?
Yeah, but it's bittersweet because I'm glad that I could be that person for him. But I think about to this day, how many people did he have to go through to get somebody that would just listen? Just listen.
Yeah.
They wasn't trying to look for some ooky spooky
What
story
they
to
wanted to
present.
hear.
Exactly what they wanted to hear. And that goes into the real first point. How much of what we've heard and that's been presented to us is what somebody wants to present as opposed to what's real? Because there's an element of truth in all this stuff. But we don't know where the meter is really. And it goes back to discernment.
Yeah.
And that's something just as well as I do. And folks, especially believers, our brothers and sisters, it's not where it should be. It's not. And what can be done for that? That comes with experience and having those spiritual battles.
Yeah.
And people are avoiding that. People are avoiding they think they are, because if you're a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, you're at war every day, whether you realize it consciously or not. What happens in the spirit translates directly into the flesh. As a matter of fact, the flesh is the shadow of what's going on in the spirit world. So I don't know. I'm not trying to propose that there be some sort of a council of truth. Isn't that what it is in the new administration? The
ministry of truth.
The ministry of truth. That's right. The ministry of truth, where President Joe Biden, in all his wisdom, is putting forth that he put together a committee of some kind or a ministry that will dig into the truth of pertinent news stories, because he can't have us deceived.
Yeah, and decide what's real and what we should hear and what we shouldn't.
And he's doing it because he loves us. He's got that type of love for the American people that it may cause him a detriment putting this team together and whatnot. Who knows? But he's willing to make that sacrifice for us and for truth, Merle.
Of course he is.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, wow, where are we at in this world? Like, where a government has to put together a council that will delve into news stories presented to the American people to see if they're true or not. There's so much wrong with that.
The crazy part about all of that to me is when I was coming up, I was raised a Democrat. My first time voting, I voted for Bill Clinton.
So was I.
And the people on the other side of this used to believe in freedom of speech. They used to believe that the ability of people to say what they believe was sacrosanct and had to be protected. And when did that change?
Because it seemed like it was an organic change, even though it was a detrimental one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're right. Like, that's the nefarious nature of it. It was almost organic. It was an overnight, but it just seemed so. The transition into what we are now, it just you're looking back and like, wait a minute, this ain't reality. This is craziness. What's going on? It's madness. So, and I'll just propose that for the folks to answer for themselves, within themselves. And leave in the comment section what you think I should do as a singular co-host or a singular host of a show and a field investigator. I don't know. I'd like to hear your ideas on it, because, I haven't done this as long as I have. There is no accountability, no across-the-board accountability for any of us. I'm sorry, folks. There's just not. I don't know if you've ever heard anybody else in this field say that. The only accountability that I have is the accountability that counts, I believe, and that's falling under the will of our Lord who is in heaven, and dwelling in truth. You have to. I'm not going to put and this sounds selfish, but I'm not going to put my neck in a noose because I want to lie and tell some sort of a crazy, grandiose story, knowing good and well that, that's witchcraft. I'm not going to do it.
No, sir.
So, on the heels of that, Merle and I were talking. This is a conversation that's happened for probably the better part of a year here and there, but it all kind of came together in a weird type of way. We're talking about these videos that are on YouTube and other places where you see President Biden reaching his hands through microphones. He's supposedly in the Oval Office, but you see weird type of what would you call them? Mistakes that you would make on a movie. Breakdowns, not even in, but like the movie sets when they have when they don't put it through post-production. You still have these little mistakes that they didn't catch in the movie. He's supposed to be in the Oval Office, but it's obvious it's some sort of a movie set or some sort of a blue screen, or green screen, rather. They don't use blue screen anymore. It's just weird stuff. The man has earlobes sometimes, then sometimes he doesn't. His nose collapses. He gives the Congressional Medal of Honor and just kind of dry ass wanders off through the crowd. Like he's at a comedy club and he's some no-name person. He's the president of the free world. And he's just boning out through a crowd of people. These are things that are unusual, folks, if you didn't know already. If you're the president of the United States, you can't just go into the public part of the White House and go into the employee refrigerator and steal someone's lunch. You are monitored 24/7, obviously, right? But we are seeing a man who obviously has, some premature, well, not premature, but kind of a little bit senile. Or is he? Are we looking at sleepy Joe Biden? I'd say we're not. I talked the other night about the twinning thing that Joseph Mengele, the Nazi scientist back in World War II, twinning, he called it. He would get twins of the Jewish people, sometimes put them in separate buildings, sometimes it would be separate rooms, but he'd do a litany of experiments on one with somebody observing the other one to see how it would take, how this person would feel, his or her identical twin. And from years of experimentation with this, according to multiple sources, universities even of that time, he successfully completed twinning, or as we call it today, cloning. And there's cloning facilities here in America. You can look up, they have commercials. You can look up commercials for them. In China, they just gone full tilt boogie into it. It's not even like a big deal. They talk about it all the time. So this is our thing. Now I won't say our thing, but I think Merle's of the same mindset. Let's move away from the fact that it may or may not be happening. It's happening, folks. It's happening. All these rappers who you see who they disappear for 4 months and then they come back and they're more yoked up, or they're the melanin in their skin's a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. Maybe their nose looks slightly different, and all of a sudden they have a completely different mindset than the last time you saw them. More than likely, the rapper or the artist that you like is somewhere pushing up daisies, and he's been replaced. The perfect example is Kanye West, I think. This man has a so-called meltdown on stage. I think personally he caught the Holy Spirit, but he has what people push as being a meltdown on stage. And his trainer, the very next morning, his trainer is the one that sent him to get a mental evaluation. The person he works out with, who's his nutritionist and trainer, he sends this man who pays him Lord knows how much money to get a mental evaluation, right? I got problems with that already, but I'll keep going. So the next time you see him, he's at Trump Tower with blonde hair, high-fiving the future president. And as Donald Trump's telling him everything's okay, everything's going to be fine. Folks, and there's a lot of, what's another example, Merle? There's a ton of them. Oh, Merle, you with us?
You've got Hillary Clinton, where she
Yeah,
goes to the 9/11 memorial and collapses, and they toss her into the back of the van like she's a side of beef. If
yeah.
you're a Secret Service guy and your job is to take a bullet for somebody, literally to step between them and a gun being fired at them,
Yes.
how are you going to take that person when they collapse and chunk them into the back of a van like they're just a chunk of meat and shut
Yeah.
the door and let them drive off?
Chunk her between
And
the
then she's out
seats.
10 minutes later doing cartwheels looking 10 years younger.
And not only this, if you go with the official narrative, go with the narrative that they gave us. She had exhaustion because she'd been up all day. She's a little bit older. So she had exhaustion. She just kind of fainted. Like some of those old school movie starlets, right? You know, they have a tragedy and they just, and they pass out. They faint. Even still, you wouldn't mishandle former American senator and the secretary, what was she? Not Secretary of Defense, I was
The
about to
former
say.
First Lady and the
Former
Secretary of
First Lady,
State
Secretary of State, American senator, an author, um,
and
the
candidate
head
for
of
president.
candidate for president, the head of many charitable organizations, and like my brother just said, you have signed on the dotted line and are consciously aware that you would have to put yourself between that person and death, and would take death so that person can live. If this person just faints from exhaustion, are you going to grab them up under the arms and give them the good old heave ho in between some seats of a van? Like,
Yeah,
and on
face
top,
first. Just
yeah, face
toss
first,
you in there like a trash bag.
and you go. And on top of that, are you going to take her to the hospital or even a private doctor? Are you going to take her to her goofy daughter's house or apartment in what is it, Greenwich Village?
Yeah, right there a few blocks
Yeah,
away.
right a few blocks away from Greenwich Village to this ritzy part of New York City. It's for her to go up there
To an
and put a
apartment
cold
building.
put a cold towel on her head and give her some iced tea and let her rest for a bit, and she comes out 10 years younger doing cartwheels off the wall. Come on now, like,
And never has another public seizure.
and this public seizure she was having that she had to have the corrective eyewear for. You never see that corrective eyewear ever again, and it's never spoken of again. That's curious to me. I mean, I'm a dumb country boy, but I find that very strange. Maybe I'm too ignorant to understand what's going on there. But just from this dumb country boy's perspective, that lady ain't real. We saw the death of that woman, in my humble opinion, and what came down was a last minute stand-in until they could wake up that clone from whatever hyperbolic state that this paralysis that it's in, and I'm guessing some murky water like on Empire Strikes Back, the stuff that Luke was in when he was wearing that diaper. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, it's madness.
it's madness, but you have to look at it for what it is. You know, we'd laugh this off this time. I'll speak for myself. I'd laugh it off this time last year. But hey, I mean, it ain't funny no more. Like, you
Yeah, I
gotta,
used to laugh it off.
yeah, you gotta have an answer for that, because what we just told you is real. It really happened. Like, so what
Not
is
only
the
that, you
problem?
got all these famous people, these rappers and stuff, come out and talk about it and say, "I've been cloned."
Yeah, like it's no
They
big
just like
deal.
it's nothing.
Yep.
It's
And I was gonna make a special about it, and I looked at it, and I downloaded everything I could of these rappers and actors and actresses who just kind of, and every last one of them, like you just said, they casually, just matter of factly say it. But the ones that say they've been to the cloning facility, and I don't know if anybody ever put it together, they just say, yeah, there's a cloning facility, and the things they're describing is across the board the same. It's the
yeah,
same.
that's what's really freaky.
Mm-hmm. The actual physical, the physical building. What they're describing is the same building. I don't know why nobody's ever. I guess it's for me, but nobody's ever. If you put those right next to each other, you have to have an answer for that too. Like, why are these people who are obviously disconnected? You have some that are singers of pop music, some that are gangster rappers. They wouldn't be having tea in the same room. Why are they saying the exact same things? That's what I like about watching people's testimonies and their near-death experiences when they go to heaven or hell. You can tell what's real and what's not because they're organically giving the same description as the other one. They may add some stuff, they may subtract some stuff, but it's across the board pretty much the same. They're talking about how everything's alive in heaven. Each individual blade of grass has its own individual life, and it's almost like they can talk. Things of that nature. You're seeing the same kind of thing in this cloning stuff. So to follow this narrative that we have, you're going to have to accept that part of it. Whether you disagree or not, we're not going to debate that. Cloning's real. It's been going on since World War II. Most of every billionaire celebrity, let's say that, most every big-time celebrity that you know of probably has visited a cloning facility or has a clone on standby for whatever reason. Like the movie The Island. Maybe it's just a harvest. They got a bad ticker. Well, we got one over here in the soup with a good ticker, you know? So,
Well, if you look at it like this, D, one thing we haven't brought up is it's not even debated that something like 80% of the beef you buy in the grocery store now is cloned.
it's cloned, yeah. And you're the one that
They
pointed that
open
out
their
to
mid.
me. And yep. And I said, the hell you say? And looked it up, and it's not hidden. It's not no esoteric knowledge. It's just right out there in the open. And as most people know who've seen the Guy Ritchie movie Snatch, a pig is, anatomically pretty much the same as a human. The organs are in the same place. And the skin is pretty much, the density of the skin, muscle and all that is similar to ours. So if in China, on the cover of Science magazine, you see 2 clone monkeys that are genetically identical down to the very atom, why can't they do that to us? So, I mean, I've come to the point where it's hard to argue the fact anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And going back to Joseph Mengele, that was what? He started his experimentation.
That was in the 30s.
Yeah, that's the 30s, early 30s, probably late 20s, because he was one of those diehards. You know what I'm saying? So they've had this technology for that long. Look how fast technology has leaps and bounds, folks. Leaps and bounds. So let's put that to the side. The woman that was thrown in the back of that van, that was the last time you saw Hillary Clinton. They brought in the stand-in for them to wake up one of her clones. How do they translate the memory? I mean, because she's got the same personality pretty much. How do they do that?
Well, they've been working for decades on what they call a human brain interface with computers.
That's true.
Not only that, they back in the 80s, I remember reading in one of the science magazines a paper on how they were working on these computer chips that they were cultivating cadaver brain cells on, so they would be able to use it to implant in human brains and stop people from having epileptic seizures.
I actually remember reading something about that a long time ago. Flash forward to modern times, we have, I think it's up to 8 people now. It's probably more than that, but 8 successful procedures for Elon Musk's interface system, the neural lace. That exists in 8 people. So there's 8 human beings on planet Earth that, according to the science that he's presented, are basically Neo from the Matrix. They can have information downloaded directly into their organic brain. That's ooky spooky. That's crazy to me.
And admittedly, he's been doing it on animals for over a decade.
Over a decade. Successfully doing it on animals. Like, so that's a whole nother barrel of worms. So there you have it. There's the answer to that. That's how they can and I know we're speaking into a crowd of people. We pretty much all have the same mindset on a lot of this stuff and the same information. So I'll put this out there. I don't believe that they are transferring their consciousness to any computer. I don't believe the Lord would allow that. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. But the demons that are attached to these wicked people that help form their personalities, they know everything. I mean, they can sound like them, look like them, smell like them. Why
And they know everything they know.
Everything they know, because they've literally had an indwelling of these demonic entities. So who's to say that that's not the person inside of that clone? I mean, it's a thought, but moving on past that, back during, I'll say 2016, if you watch Alex Jones at all, Alex Jones was, I mean, he was going hard in the paint back then. He was having on 4-star generals, admirals, former admirals, former members of the CIA, and you can vet these people with a quick Google search. They were the real deal. And they were all saying very curious things that you don't hear anymore. How many people remember? What was that admiral's name? I think he was an admiral. He was one of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right? Or
Which one are you talking about?
The one that said that old boy was recruited.
Oh, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You talking about him?
Yeah.
There was several of them that talked about it, but he said it himself.
He did say it himself. So
Yeah.
not to throw any of those other people, but there was some high-ranking folks that I think he may have been the first one to put it out there, but I'm pretty sure he was the second. I want to say it was some guy who was in the CIA, a former CIA op.
Mm-hmm. And then you had Admiral Mike Rogers that run the NSA that went and met with him right after he was elected and basically turned over the NSA files to him.
Yep. So, and proved that, hey, I hate to tell you this, big guy, but we've been spying on you and your family for a very long time. And so he's recruited, folks. You have to ask yourself, who was he recruited by? There are, believe it or not, people within government, local and federal, that are for us, that have an indwelling of the Holy Spirit, that love the Lord, and they love you. They love this country. Could you, I mean, imagine that for 1 minute. We talk about the wickedness on Capitol Hill. We don't talk about these guys. I mean, and pray for them. For you folks that do pray for them. Because well, when we get to it, I mean, you'll see that I think those prayers probably work. So, Donald Trump's recruited. We have this background entity, this shadow government, right? The ones that are really running things and have been for a very long time. You get these guys that recruited Trump, they grab him by the arm and said, hey, come in here for a minute, Donald. Sit down, we got to show you something real quick. They show him multiple angles of the Kennedy assassination and files that have been sealed for a long time, but nothing's redacted. He sees that there's another entity within the government that's really pulling the strings, and its hand, the devil himself has got his hand on the shoulders of the ones that are in leadership of it. And Donald Trump says, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, seriously. So he says, all right, well, what are we going to do? Because we can't have this. And when the generals say, we're glad to hear you say that. And they move forward. Now, I know all of you remember this, the QAnon stuff. At the very onset, QAnon was coming out with information. The CIA was wanting to shut it down because they came out and said, hey, whoever this is an enemy of the state. They're leaking secrets. But if you really looked at what they were saying, they were telling on them. They were telling on a lot of people. And they didn't like it. So somewhere along the line, it got amalgamated with this other stuff that got presented as QAnon. And the waters were very, very muddy. But at the very beginning, they were giving some truth. Whoever was behind that is the same people that drugged Donald Trump into that room. Now, imagine this, if you will. The good elements of the government. The ones who hip them to what's really, really going on. They all sit down and they devise a plan. They said, look, this is the long game. We can't do this overnight. They come up with the plan during the presidency. He did everything that he said he was going to do. Like at least 98% of it, right? What he was allowed to. You never seen a president, I don't know of one in modern history, where the entirety of the Senate was trying their best to vote. He could have said that he was going to give everybody $1,000 check and a vehicle if they didn't have one, and build a city just for the homeless and give them $30,000 to start off on. There would have been
And hand them the cure for cancer while he was at it.
Yeah. There have been people that would vote that down and come up with any kind of cockamamie excuse to say that he's doing it because he's evil. You know what I'm saying? So to say he was met with opposition would be an understatement. But why? Why would you be met? I mean, you're helping the American economy thrive. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and they're burning down
the way the
cities.
entire machine just turned against him.
Yes,
on the left and on the right.
On both, the people say there's two wings on the same bird. Well, the wings on the bird turn to rend the bird, and it makes no sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like he was doing the right thing. He was fixing real, tangible problems that we've had for years. And doing his dead level best to, I believe. So during this first 4 years, this plan's starting to come together. COVID hits. We're all sectioned off inside of our homes. The world is inundated with fear. The entirety of the world is probably since the Black Plague. I can't think of anything, or the Spanish flu.
Well, there's no historical equivalent.
No, there's really not. You can try to come close, but there's nothing that's really that accurate. Where the whole world is saying, hey, you better stay in your house. This is killing
Well, the
everybody.
whole world shuts down.
And they're showing in New York City bodies from nursing homes being chunked in the ice cream trucks. I mean, that's crazy. So what happened? What's happening on the back end? Go back to old Don's first week in office. 642 people who would put their hands to harm a child. In his first week, folks, 642 individuals are thrown into prison. I heard one newscast about it, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. I'm asking everybody I know and people I don't, did you see what he just did like his first week of office? Nobody knew. To the point where I thought I was in Trip Out City. Maybe I imagined it, a fever dream or something. But no, it happened. It happened. And I think that was a small part of a bigger operation. Think back, because I know a lot of you keep your eye on it. Y'all are smart. What else was going on while that lockdown was happening? You're seeing these reports from the truther channels, if you want to call them that, of celebrities, politicians, actors, actresses, heads of state, people from around the world being taken to Guantanamo Bay. And the rumor was they were getting put against the wall, folks. They were being put against the wall. The main one that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is Tom Hanks. He was shooting a film in Australia. Him and his wife were both arrested in Australia. There was pictures that they were at Guantanamo Bay. And he disappears for a few months. He makes his next appearance on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was during the lockdown. At the very end, the last fraction of a second, because he's at home, right? Hey, it's DW in the chat, folks. He's on lockdown at home. He's hosting the Saturday Night Live from his house. The last fraction of a second of that broadcast, somebody else's face appeared on his. It's live and in living color, deep fakes. They have the technology to superimpose someone's face on live television. And folks, there's something called the uncanny valley. I know there's some Star Wars fans in here. Star Wars Rogue One brought back one of my favorite characters, Grand Moff Tarkin. If you're a nerd, you know what I'm talking about. The actor that played him, whose name escapes me right now, is he played Sherlock Holmes in the old black and white movies. Remember that, Merle?
Yeah.
They reconstructed his face completely digitally. They got a lookalike that was a pretty good lookalike, and they did the rest digitally. As good as it was, it put your mind in the uncanny valley to see him. Because your unconscious and subconscious mind looks at that and says, wait, there's something off. There's something not right. So as good as that was, you could tell it was fake. People were saying it was a cartoon, even though as good as it looked, it was a cartoon. To bring up to, I don't want to get too far into it, but the tragedy that happened on 9/11. There were people at Ground Zero saying missiles hit those towers. There were other people who were way smarter than I am with these things that said that there were projections of airplanes that were going on. I think the evidence after the fact proves positively that there were charges in play. It was a controlled demolition, folks. I'm sorry. I mean, you're allowed to disagree. It's whatever. But that was a controlled demolition. You take all that. That was 2001. So you got Tom Hanks hosting Saturday Night Live during the lockup. And I forget whose channel it was on, maybe the Dr. Common Sense or something like that. But they showed that last fraction of a second, it was his brother. His name is, I believe, Jim Hanks. He kind of looks like Tom Hanks, but he sounds exactly like him. You know what I'm talking about? Like, as a matter of fact, the first Toy Story was Tom Hanks, but a couple of them through the middle were his brother because they sound so much alike. The inflections of his voice, the cadence in which he speaks, he can mimic it perfectly. So where's Tom Hanks? Well, according to Alex Jones, there was a whole lot more than him, showing pictures of him and his wife at Guantanamo Bay in handcuffs. So what's going on? What's happening? The same plan that happened from the very beginning. Them pulling the Don into a room and saying, hey, Mr. President, before you start your first day, we need to show you some stuff. Folks, you need discernment, because everything you see and everything you hear, and I'm about to prove it right now, because Vice Presidential candidate Fred Flintstone and the Don have a little bit of a message for you. But folks, we're in a day and age that if you're trusting what you're seeing, if you're not filtering everything through the Holy Spirit, you're going to put yourself in a jam. Because if they can show you things that are fake, they're projecting it as real people, like celebrities. There was a Will Smith thing. You may have seen it. It was a commercial for something, but it showed that he was really older than what he was, and it was all green screen and stuff, and it aged him up. And this technology aging him up looked so real that there were people saying, "Hey, that was real. That's really Will Smith. He really looks like an old man like that." If they have technology that doesn't throw your mind into the uncanny valley, we could be in trouble if we don't have discernment. Big trouble. I can't
Think
put a big
about
enough
back in
emphasis.
think about back in like 2001 when September the 11th happened. It was openly admitted at the time that they had the technology at that time when something was being live broadcast that they could cut in and change what you were seeing at will in real time.
And it'd be seamless.
Yep.
Seamless. I can't put a big enough
Also,
point on
back in,
that.
I think it was like 2004, 2005, Hank Williams Jr. did like a country music show on CMT, and they had him on stage along with a hologram of his daddy singing together. And the people in the audience said if it wasn't him in black and white, if they'd have done it in color, I would have thought it was a real man on stage.
Wow. And I'm going to put together you guys a video to just illustrate some of what we're talking about. Because maybe some of you aren't privy. We have families, we have responsibilities, work and jobs and everything. Some of you may not be privy to things we're talking about. So when you see this, it's going to make you stop and say, well, gee, Monelli, like what's really going on? If they can project in real time, we already know that they can interfere with any broadcast. They can. If they can project or superimpose something on top of a live broadcast where you think you're looking at Brian Gumbel, all of a sudden he turns into Martin Luther King Jr. back from the dead, and that be seamless. And your mind doesn't see that and go into the uncanny valley and say, wait a minute, I'm looking at some computer graphic stuff. Now, let's go back to our president. Folks, and I know you've seen the videos, the man has earlobes sometimes he doesn't. He's tugging at the wrinkles on his neck as if he's adjusting a mask, and when you look at the face does adjust. You remember Mission Impossible, that first Mission Impossible movie? I think they used it in other ones, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, they had that mask that, I mean, the mask was, of course it was the actor playing the role, but when he pulled the mask off, it's like, whoa, what's going on? And the way they pulled it off is cinematic. It was a cinematic masterpiece, I think, that first Mission Impossible. I think they have that technology right now. Yes, in effect, bro, I think that they have that technology right now, and they're using it.
Yep.
This man had the top of his head cut off for a surgery, and he's got his finger on the nuclear button. So you go back to Donald Trump. Let's look at some really curious things that I mean, everybody knows the handshake. He just shake their hand and snatch them in. It's a power move. He gets off of Air Force One as the first president since Ike Eisenhower back in the 50s to visit North Korea. He gets off Air Force One by himself. By himself. Crosses that line from South Korea into North Korea with North Korean troops saluting him. Goes and shakes Kim Jong-un's hand, the man who 6 months prior, he was at one of those breakfast press conferences like he used to do. The question wasn't even asked to him, it was asked to the press secretary. They go, oh, Kim Jong-un has threatened the United States again. If they don't do this, this, and this, then they'll do this, this, and this. He interrupted the man. If Kim Jong-un threatens us one more time, we will destroy him with fire. Do you remember that? And the dude kind of, he looked at, and puts his head down. Like, what's going on? The Grand Poobah of China, whatever that dude's name is, he's had dinner in the White House. They're eating, ice cream. They're on dessert. They turn on the TV just in time to see a Moab dropped on a village in Afghanistan. Now, I wasn't in that room, and it wasn't televised, but I could just imagine Donald looking over at him and staring at him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. You want some of this?
Yeah. You want another scoop of ice cream there, buddy? You know what I mean? Like, this guy was far too, and I mean, to me, that's commander in chief, folks. I don't want a leader of this country who's going to be over there bowing to the Saudi royals and holding their hands, walking around and acquiescing to their nonsense. So go back to the lockdown again. And I'm sure it's just a crazy coincidence, but I was working in the oil field at the time. Russia and Saudi Arabia enter into a bidding war that sinks the entirety of the oil industry lower than it's been in over 100 years. They were selling barrels of oil for 50 cents a barrel. That's when you pulled up to the pumps, and in some places it was 98 cents a gallon. Now, what if? Because we all know, if you're on this channel, you're smart. We all know that wasn't as it appeared to be. That was something else was going on. But what if it wasn't bad? We all know that they expounded upon the numbers because the funding that was going on then, people were individuals in small towns and big cities, the doctors were taking advantage. They were taking advantage of a situation. So they superficially bolstered up the number of people whose death was linked to that illness. In this town, just that I'm in right now, I can tell you for an unequivocal fact, 2 people. One was a young girl about my age, a little bit younger than me. I'm 39. Then I was like, so she was in her early 30s, late 20s. She drowned tragically at the lake. And they listed on the death certificate, died of COVID complications, folks. Complications from COVID. Well, God bless her parents who were Christian. They raised 10 types of hell until they finally took it to the governor. And when Governor Stitt, the worst governor in the history of this country, and when he didn't do anything immediately about it, they went to the papers. And they got that death certificate changed to the appropriate cause of death. Now, that wouldn't happen if there weren't, where there's smoke, there's fire, folks. What if the Don and these Joint Chiefs of Staff and the good portion of the government was saying, look, we can't go any further until we weed out all these people. They're inundated in too many places in this government. We gotta, I mean, we can't just outright do it because that's going to turn everything upside down. Under the lockdown, they go under the cover of night like the angel of death that went through Egypt, and they're taking these people out. It'd be very interesting to look at that Epstein list and look at these people and what they look like prior to the lockdowns and post-lockdown. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always something off about them if they are these clones. So I think that's our that's pretty much our theory, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, the way I look at it is it has to be one of two things. It either has to be that or it has to be the other way around.
Yeah.
That they got control of things and they're using it to do it. And I'm really hoping it ain't that way.
And to me, I don't think it, and it's just me. I mean, folks, this is just a theory we have. We're batting around and it was interesting enough for us to present it to y'all and get y'all's opinion on it. But just like you said, I don't think it's them, because you got to look at the fruit from all of it. You know what I'm saying? The Democratic Party's been gutted
Yeah.
completely. I mean, it's done. The starting lineup isn't all that great, and there's nobody on the bench. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's nobody to rotate in. They're done. And the head of that party, who would be the person sitting in the highest seat, is boo-booing on himself, talking 10 types of madness. He doesn't know where he's at half the time. I think I've seen him fall just as much as I've seen him walk. He's given the Congressional Medal of Honor, burning off through the crowd to the point where the Secret Serviceman is looking melancholy and depressed because he's got to deal with it.
Well, not only that, you've got Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones doing an interview where both of them confirmed each other's report, saying that they have sources in the White House saying this man's wandering around in there naked with poop running down his legs, and they have to give him so much methamphetamine it's crazy to get him up out of the bed in the morning, and then have to give him sedatives to go to sleep at night.
And he's 81 years old?
81 or 82.
Yeah. So that's heavy duty. That's heavy duty. And
I mean, there's something going on with all these things together.
Yes,
There's something. It's all bull. Everything we're being showed.
it can't translate as it's being showed, bro. I refuse to believe that, because that would mean we're in the upside down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's take it at face value. The president, who is itching for a civil war, it seems like, is well within, he's smack dab in the middle of his right mind. He's not senile. He's young and virile. I mean, no, I don't buy none of that. I don't buy none of that. Then you got the vice president. Lord forbid if something actually does happen to Sleepy Joe. This woman cackles like that Romero guy who played the Joker in 1966. Cesar Romero was his name, I think. Like,
yeah.
You have Mitch McConnell. Go the other side of the aisle. We got Mitch McConnell staring at the angel of death twice. They said, "Oh well, he had maybe a miniature stroke." Okay, I'll bite. I'll buy that. It happens again. It happens again.
Yeah.
His aide says, "Mr. Senator, are you all right?" "Yeah." "Would you like to continue?" "Yeah." He's consciously answering questions while still staring at the angel of death. I mean,
it's all mad.
It is. I used to like to go to the carnival, knowing that, when I threw that baseball at those 3 milk cartons, that one of them has a piece of metal through the middle of it. It's never going to be knocked down. I knew that, but I still pay my $2 and I take my 3 shots. You know what I'm saying? So a little bit of that flim flam stuff I know is going to be in there. I just know it. It's what it is. But man alive, like, this is a little bit more than that. Like, what's going on?
No kidding.
It makes no sense. And what's that dude's name? Ramaswamy?
Yeah, Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy, yes. That dude, I liked him. I'm not gonna lie to you. I liked him. He was saying everything that the things that we would say in private. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you don't agree with our politics, that's fine, folks. This is America. But he was saying things that were pertinent, especially to a Christian. And then Merle called one morning and burst my bubble. And he put me back in my logical state of mind. And we discovered some things on him. And now I hate his guts. No, I mean, like, he's the perfect plan. He's the perfect plan. But look on the look at the senatorial floor. You have Matt Gaetz, who's the Stone Cold Steve Austin of Capitol Hill. You got Senator Hawley. You got John Kennedy up there. And they are literally smoking people's games and the narratives that they've been presenting. This is actually worth it. Hawley and this professor. I'm going to look that up and show the people, because some of them may not have seen it. Folks, if you live in this country, some of y'all are in England and New Zealand. I understand that. But for an American, if you haven't seen this clip I'm about to show you, I believe it's pertinent. And if I was in anything of power, I would make sure that every 9th grader saw this piece of footage to help them decide if they want to go to college or not. What you're about to see is a college professor. And you'll see her wear a mask, but this is well after COVID's over and done with. He's asking her the most simple Simon question, and she's a university professor at a prestigious school. You're going to be breaking some bread to send your kid there. And I'll let the clip speak for itself. And it's representative of what's going on in this country. Now, it's just like you said. Is it the good guys or the bad guys who have launched this? I'd like to say it's the good guys. But then again, you know, it's cloak and dagger stuff for real. I don't know. What do you think, Merle?
I think that, I think that everything we're seeing is just, it's scripted. You remember back on the day that they, what do they call it, inaugurated Donald Trump. There was
Yes.
people trying to burn down Washington, D.C. There was riots.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have all these riots in the time that he was in office, just out of made up whole cloth nothing, most of them.
Yeah.
And you've got Hillary Clinton coming out saying that the election was stolen. She even sued them over it.
Yeah. Like that was wild.
But it was okay for her to do it, but Donald Trump better not do it. But then
Brother,
you've
they
got
were
this.
announcing that she won before all the votes
Yeah.
were even counted.
Then you've got this right here. If people are in these government agencies breaking all these laws and doing all this stuff, if he would have even tried to arrest them, there were people in our military that I think would have tried to take him out. And
You know, I hate to
there
agree with
has
that,
to
but
be a
I
way.
have to.
There has to be a way to do this without, there being total civil war. And one of the only ways that would be possible is with something like COVID, where you shut the whole nation down and you can do the biggest part of it in private and at least take out the heads of all of it before
Depose
anybody
them
knows
anyway.
it's done.
You know,
Yes.
let's say that QAnon stuff wasn't, you know, because I've seen pictures, bro, and it's awful strange. But like you said, you can't trust what you see. Let's say that was, you know, added in as a bit of a distraction as well. You could depose them peacefully, removing them from their positions of power, and get somebody else primed up who has got the right spirit. You could do that. I mean, I believe during that time.
Well, I mean, you take a look at the way everything played out.
Yeah.
Even most of the people that was rioting and saying that they hated Donald Trump and that he wasn't their president are now saying, I love Donald Trump. We need him for president.
Never acknowledging how adamant they were against him, saying they'll leave the country if he won. Some of
Yeah.
those same ones have boomeranged back to the fact that this wasn't happening during the Trump administration. And they were so
Yeah.
passionate and saying all that like, and it's all a massive distraction. That's what it boils down to, folks. That was the what would you call it? The crescendo of our orchestra that we wrote today was it's all a lie. It's all projections of madness that they're inundating people with. It's all a distraction, whether it be good or bad, you know? And that brings it to, like I said, the crescendo. If what we're saying is true, let's say, look at it from the good guys, they're doing it. Donald Trump allowed that election to be stolen from him. Not only allowed, but him and you know, the good part of the hidden government put it into motion that it was done that way. I mean, and once you start thinking about that and thinking about how, like you said, look at the results of all of it, that's some ooky spooky, cloak and dagger, clandestine stuff. Do I think the CIA and NSA and all those guys would be capable of it? You better believe it. That's their bread and butter. That's what they do. You don't. I mean,
Yep.
you don't. Nobody thinks they ever deposed some leader before and done so peacefully. Oh, that's another thing we didn't mention. I don't remember his name. You may, Merle, but he was a 4-star general. Immediately after, it was the very next day after the votes were counted. This former 4-star general, and it was on a commercial on YouTube. It just popped up when I was going on my front page. I clicked a video. I forget what video it was because I saw that and it shocked me. He said, "What you have just witnessed in our country was what's called a soft coup." Does anybody remember that? Drop a 1 if you remember that.
I think it was General Vallely. I ain't gonna swear to it, but I think that's who it was.
I think you're right. He said, "What you've just witnessed is a soft coup in our country to take the reins back from evil people who had them for I don't know how many years," he said. But he flat out said what we're telling you right now. So if it was a soft coup, that's another word for an under the table deposing of the former administration that's been hidden from you.
The same term that the last 3 administrations used all the time: regime change.
Regime change. Bro, I'm glad we got this out. This is almost therapeutic to me. Because, bro, this has been in the back of my mind since we talked about it. Like,
yeah.
And what's the scary part is, as wild as this sounds, this theory, once you start like talking it out and thinking about it, like intellectually, look at the facts of the matter, it makes too much sense.
It makes more sense than anything else we're being handed.
And he used their evil, malicious, wicked deeds, like the Patriot Act, folks. The Patriot Act is the most wicked thing next to that Bible that monk wrote. That's giant, the Gygas, whatever. Whatever that book says, it's written in some language nobody's ever seen. But I guarantee if somebody figures it out, it's evil as shit. The Patriot Act is, you know what I mean? The Patriot Act is
the most unconstitutional indictment of our government that's ever been written.
Perfectly put. And it's up there with that Gygas Codex thing. It's a runner-up, if not a tie. Because if you go through that, folks, I went through, believe it or not, when I went back to college second time, North Central Texas College, I went through, took me all semester, but I went through the entirety of those 3,000 some odd pages. Number one, there's no way that you're going to introduce that to a human being. I don't care if they got a staff of 50 people and they read and understand all that's in that. There's no way. Even if they, giving them short notes, page 1, section, blah, 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 it's basically saying this. That would be a book in and of itself. And I'm not talking about some novella when you go to the grocery store that's right before you check out. One of them handsome dudes with his chest showing, carrying some damsel in distress across a beach. No, this would be another book in and of itself, just the breakdown of it.
Yeah, so and some of the sentences in the breakdown are words like extrajudicial, indefinite detention.
Yes. And it's hidden in such rhetoric. That's what got me. I've never seen such a wordy, the man who says 20 words where 8 will do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's exactly what it was. I mean, and there was so much pork in it that you could...
They actually codified into law that they could come to your house and arrest you without a warrant, never give you a trial, not supply you with a lawyer, and hold you indefinitely incognito.
Yep.
Not even tell anybody they have you. And if any of your family members told anybody that they come and took you, they could arrest them as well for a felony.
They're sharing into the same crime that they're accusing you of. That's this nondescript act of terrorism. Well, D, what could possibly be considered terrorism that someone could do that? I'm glad you asked. Having too many canned goods, having too many bottles of water, collecting rainwater, using some sort of filtration system to filter out the non-essential things and water that you would get out of a puddle in your yard, folks.
And the latest one is people buying King James versions of the Bible.
Oh, well, we ain't got to worry about that. That's the most inaccurate translation of the Bible there is, Merle. Yeah. Who's going to buy a King James Bible? There's so many.
It just recently came out a week or two ago that the Justice Department wrote letters to all the credit card companies requesting the records of any of their customers that were buying Bibles.
Well, the Justice Department, though, I mean, even though it's separation of church and state, Merle, The Justice Department is
Mhm.
real concerned that Christians get the right Bible. If they're going to be a Christian, they got to have the right material to be that Christian. And the NIV is where it's at. I mean, back in their wisdom, those students of Helena Blavatsky, they decided to make an easier. See, it's easier to read and understand, Merle. And
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I mean, it's you know, brother. As you know, I've told you before. My mom and every generation that came before her almost grew up on 100 and something acre farm in Arkansas. My great grandma lived to be 100 years old. I think 100 or 101. But I got to spend a lot of time with her. That woman did not go to. She didn't have a formal education because she grew up on that farm. I saw the schoolhouse she went to, but she had to drop out early because, you know, I don't think she had any brothers, and she had to do farm work. Uh-oh, they're already getting to us. I was afraid if we get too deep into this, like, you know, some spooky stuff would happen. But anyways, folks, my grandmother could read the King James Bible, which is written in Shakespearean English, Old English. She could read that as if she were Shakespeare himself. All the these and thous and thines didn't make her skip a beat. And she had no formal education. Miss me with that making the Bible easier to read nonsense, all right? I don't want to hear it. Tell that to somebody who don't know no better. The King James Bible is the only Bible on this planet. The world, I'll look at the camera. The only Bible there is, folks, to have the official, I'm sorry. What does it say inside of a King James Bible, Merle? It's not the official.
Authorized version.
Authorized. The authorized version. I'm sure they want to put it in other Bibles. And as soon as they try it, their printing presses is probably burned down. It's the only Bible on planet Earth that has the authorized version in it. Well, why is that, D? I'm glad you asked. It's because it's not a translation at all. It's a transliteration. It's simply taking those words from Assyrian, Hebrew, Greek, a little bit of Latin, just a tiny little bit of Latin. It's taking those words and putting them in their English equivalent. You see, when you translate a word, you could be taking that word that sounds similar to that transliteration. You're translating it, and you're completely changing the context of the sentence because it's not going to translate directly. When you transliterate it, not only does it have the same sound as the original word in most cases, but you're not changing the context of what's being written. And that's important when it comes to the Word of God, believe it or not. So when he's telling you that the Justice Department is making lists of people that buy KJVs, my suggestion to everybody who wants to buy a Bible, the Bible, go to the Salvation Army and use cash. That's where we're at, folks. And I'll tell you, like I've told you for years, mock me for a liar, go do your own research, and when you see that everything we're telling you is the truth, accept it as truth. Don't try to hide it. Don't put it out of your mind because it's ooky spooky and scary. Accept it as truth. Get on your face, pray about it, and trust the Lord. It's easy, really. I mean, God does not give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. Why does power come before love and a sound mind, D? God is love, right? You're absolutely right. I'm glad you asked that as well. Y'all are smart. Power comes before love and even a sound mind because that power is the power of God himself. He who spoke everything we know as reality into existence, folks. You have nothing to be afraid of if you belong to him. He sits outside of time and space. He sees past, present, and future all as one constant flow. I can imagine that. I mean, I can tell you that, and I know that for a fact, and the Bible indicates it. But I can't imagine that. A forever in the past and a forever in the future? What are we talking about? But it's true, and it's real. And I'm glad I belong to the one who does know and understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, I do.
Folks, we're at a point in time where we got to start looking at this stuff. This dogman stuff, that's all well and fine. You know, ooky spooky stories. Cool. You know, but it's real. They're real.
There's a ooky spooky story going on right in front of everybody.
Yes. And you're a part of it. I mean, like, I don't fear man who could destroy my body, but after this has nothing more he can do. Woe, I say unto you, I fear him who can, after he destroys the body, has the power to cast into hell fire. Woe, I say unto you, fear him. That's in red letters in your Bible.
You know, there's a man that was an atheist, but he said something that was probably one of the truest things I ever heard, believe it or not. And his name was George Carlin. He said, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
It's one big club and you ain't invited. He had one of the most awesome cigarette voices.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the Lord can use an atheist to even tell biblical truth, bro.
Yeah.
It is one
You
big
know,
club and
another
you ain't
thing
invited.
that nobody hardly brings up, another one of the big criteria to put you on one of those terrorist lists is to have a copy of the Constitution, the
Mm-hmm.
founding documents of this nation, the documents that every police officer, every person that serves in the armed forces,
They swear to
or
uphold
takes a government job, swear to uphold and defend. They take an oath
to
to
God.
uphold and defend it. But if you buy a copy of it, you might be a terrorist.
Even if you're born on this soil, even if you come from a military background. And the reason we're so comfortable telling you, I can tell you for an unequivocal fact. Me and this guy right here has probably been on a list since the doctor spanked us on the rear end. Like, straight up. We've been on a list since we were held upside down in that hospital, so I'm not
Yes,
worried about it too
sir.
much. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, like old Steve Quayle said, if you ain't on a list at this point in time, then shame on you.
yeah, you ain't trying hard enough. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it fills me with great glee and joy that I'm on several lists, up to the point where a military personnel was acclimating his dog to gunfire and showed up at my area of research, and he just happened to be there every time I went there for the next 4 or 5 visits. Let's see, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. Yeah, the next 5 times that I went into that area, the last 2, not speaking about anything on the phone, not talking around any electronic equipment about where I was going to go, what time I was going to be there. He was just happened to be there acclimating his dog to gunfire. I'm sure that's all a coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
If I would have made one misstep, bro, that man would put a bullet in the back of my head. There's no doubt. The Lord showed me that much, bro. I mean, he's like, hey,
Yeah.
what are you doing out here? I'm a nature photographer, which wasn't a lie.
Nope.
Bro. And let me go ahead and show you this video, folks, because I know some of y'all haven't seen this, and it's funny, but you got to laugh to keep from crying. This is an American senator speaking to, and it's a hot button, and it's old, it's a little bit older. I think it may be a year old, right at a year. It's a hot button topic, and I'm not saying any kind of political thing. I just want you to watch it as it is. This is a university professor speaking to an American senator. And it'll make you kind of melancholy in a way. It did me. This woman was lost in the sauce for real. Let's see. There we go. And she's a law professor at that. Are you kidding me? You remember this one, Merle?
I can't see it good yet.
Let's see. Cooperate with me.
Oh, yeah. She need taken straight to a mental asylum when this was
Mr.
over.
Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Hold on, I want to get this in the highest definition possible for you folks. See it in full HD madness. People with a capacity, how did he put it? People with the capacity
To give birth.
for having children, to give birth.
Yeah.
And Senator Hawley, he comes across, and I believe he is, such a sincere person. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I felt bad for him.
Professor, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be
pregnant.
women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue. It's a.
We can
it's a
recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so
Look at her
your
eyes,
view
bro.
is
Bro,
that the
my
core of
goodness.
this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who have pregnancies?
So I want to
I'm
note
sorry,
that.
folks. I'm sorry. That was the most genuine reaction to this type of madness that I've probably ever seen. He was like, wow, like, hold on, slow down. Okay, I'm opening people up to violence, lady. You bet.
Well,
I'm gonna jump
D,
back
you
over there,
know,
'cause I was
words
watching-
are violence now.
Yeah, words are violence. If words are violence, then I'm King Kong and Godzilla combined, bro. Because,
Well, I'll tell you what, if words are violence, I've been abused my whole life.
no kidding. If words are violence, I'm glad that we don't do one of those after show things like The Walking Dead had, because we'd be in Guantanamo Bay too. Because it was, folks, I really wish I could translate to you. I'd have to use some words that some people might find offensive. If I could translate to you exactly how I felt when I first watched this madness. This woman comes in with a mask on. She's got hoops through her nose, and this is a law professor. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all, I have to watch it, so now y'all do too.
Is that the core of this right then is about what?
I'm just wondering, is she on coke or crank? Because her eyes are bugging out of her head severely, bro.
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
Because of
for
my
us-
line of questioning?
Because
When did suicide become
because
violent?
denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist.
I'm
is-
denying that trans
How's
people
he
exist by
Are
asking
you?
you if you're
Are
talking
you?
about women
Are you?
having pregnancies.
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can
So
get
you're
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom?
No
Are students
shit.
allowed to question you? Or are
Absolutely.
they also treated like this? Where
No, no,
they're
they're
told
allowed
that
to
they're
question me.
opening up people to
Oh,
violence
we have a good
by
time in my
questioning.
class. You should join.
Oh, I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
God, she's so demonized, bro.
Thank you
Yeah.
for watching. You to follow today's topic.
That every time I watch that, it just, I mean, man.
You know, it makes me miss the time when I was young. Back then, we had these things called mental hospitals. And when you started
beautiful, insane
acting like that,
asylums.
yes, when people started acting like that, well, they just knew better because that's where they got taken to until they could learn to regulate and be in society and talk like a person that's not
like
delusional.
a person, yeah, like they're a human being. But see, the thing is, and we're separated by a few years, not a lot of few, but it puts us in different generations. Yeah, it would. I know in both generations, though, I feel this in my guts. That woman would have never made it to that Senate. She would have never made it before Senate.
No,
It just wouldn't have happened. They
she
would
wouldn't have
seen
been on a faculty in any university.
Amen. And if she just happened to squeak by, let's say she was a super savant, that she was the greatest law professor in the history of law, written law itself, since Moses came down off Mount Sinai. Let's just say that. As soon as they would have seen those rings in her nose, they would have went and got a woman, because the man wouldn't have dealt with it. Whoever the Secret Serviceman or security, they would have went and got a female senator or something of that nature, and they would have came to her. There's probably been a black female senator, you know what I'm saying, so she can relate a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
And that black female senator would have said, "Baby, you'll take them rings out your nose. If you're gonna represent yourself, you also representing our people. You're gonna represent them the right way. Now you know better than that. Go in that bathroom and take them rings out your nose before anybody else sees them in there." And she probably would have came in and still talked crazy, but she wouldn't have looked like she just came out from Circus Olay. Or, I mean, bro, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm a nerd, so I watch C-SPAN sometimes just to see what's going on. This woman is talking 90 to nothing. I don't know if she did a bump of coke or whatever before she went in there, but that was nuts, and it shouldn't have been allowed. She's accusing an American senator who's actually a decent man of bringing people to, she was essentially saying he's helping people commit suicide. He's bringing people under a spirit of suicide, right? I mean, that's essentially what I heard.
Since when she said he was opening people up to violence. Since when is it violence against a person that they commit suicide?
Because it's not their fault, even though they made the choice to do so. You see, it's the person's fault who made them feel like they needed to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Brother, there's one thing I hate, and I hate to use that word, but I do. I hate it. Some people call them pet peeves, but I've argued with people who will say, you've made me feel like fill in the blanks. Bro, how can you talk to a person who's saying that? I'm a wizard, and I somehow waved a wand, and I made you feel something. I took away your free will, your autonomy that's given to you by God, and I made you feel something against your own will.
Yeah, there ain't nobody ever made me feel anything except for pain if they punch me in the face or something.
Yeah, and that's physical, not verbal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if somebody talks about my mama, I'm going to be mad. I may not display that on the outside. I may look like Stone Cold Steve Austin, stone face and everything, smile and laugh at them. Inside, I've already stomped their guts out, but they'll never know it. I'll just laugh at them, walk off, because it's disrespectful. People feel that disrespect, and you've heard me before, and I know these people have too. The experiment that I don't know what kind of scientist he was, but he was a scientist. The experiment that he did when he had those 2 vials of water, speaking great things and uplifting, prayerful things to one, and dog cussing the other one. When he put him under that nuclear microscope and looked down to its atoms, as close as you can see these water droplets, one had 8-dimensional, beautiful, like geometrical shapes. It looked like
crystalline structures.
Yes, it was beautiful. The other one looked like muddy, pissy, oily water. And it was night and day, same source, but the only thing that was added to these 2 things of water were verbal. So literally words do affect us on our anatomical level. They affect us down to our atoms. Words do hurt.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is he could do the spoken word or he could write a label and put on it. Even the written word didn't.
I always forget about that part, but you're absolutely right. And that right there is proof positive that this world is more than just something. It's more than just physical interactions. You know what I'm saying? The vibration and the vibrational frequency of who we are and our voice itself. His
very intentions as well.
Yes, the intentions behind it. It always goes back to the CERN Large Hadron Collider to me. Because, I mean, that's a scientific instrument. I almost said weapon, but that was a Freudian slip. You know what I'm saying? The CERN Large Hadron Collider, through their experimentation, found the Higgs boson particle. When they looked at the Higgs boson particle and studied and observed it, it reverberated. It moved like sound, like a vocal cord, proving to me and anybody who's really paying attention that it wasn't nothing that crashed into nothing that created a big bang in a vacuumless pocket. That's a little bit of a stretch for me. I'm a dumb country boy, but that's a little bit of a stretch for me. It was a voice in the void of nothingness that said, "Barah, come into being that which was not, now is." No material to start with. From his own will and his creative essence, spoke everything into existence. And I believe that in my heart. And the greatest scientific instrument and endeavor ever known to man proved it. But you'll still see people subscribing to this madness. And it goes all the way back to our theory and everything else. This woman is a result of the, I don't want to say hologram, but that's another word for it. This false projection.
Construct. It's just a construct.
This false construct of reality that people are subscribing to. They know it's not real deep down inside. They have to know it's not real. they know that less than 1% of the population of this country should not be dictating policy. They should not be fighting for rights that they already have. There's no right that me and you have as heterosexual males, that someone who's not a heterosexual male or female or whatever, there's no rights that we have that they do not share. They can go to a justice of the peace and be married, and that marriage be recognized by law. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, there's separation of church and state. They don't have to go into a church, nor should they, in my humble opinion. But that's going off the map a little bit of the point I was trying to make. I don't think I was trying to make a point. I just wanted to torture them with that, just like I was tortured with it. I had to see it. They do too. That crazy
I
shit.
think Tucker Carlson put it best about that. People that want to just say whatever they want, and we're supposed to just accept it at face value with all evidence to the contrary. They think they're gods. They think they can just
to the
speak.
contrary is right.
Yes. They can just speak this stuff into reality, and because they can speak into reality, we're supposed to worship them and tell them how beautiful and how brave and stunning and magnificent they are.
And not even.
And if we don't, then they get to turn and rend us and call us all these names, like
a racist, misogynist, a bigot, a caveman. We're part of the problem. Me and you are part of the problem already. You got to take me out of the equation, because they don't even want to acknowledge that me and you would call each other brothers and mean it, because you're a white man and I'm a black man. That messes up their narrative right there. Because I can't be a conservative Christian Bible loving man because I'm black. I'm supposed to be a thug who doesn't speak the Kings very well, who's ill-educated, and who's easy to manipulate and move and kind of maneuver into one of their points. Like I'm a weapon in their hand. I'm not supposed to be saying or feeling any of this stuff, right? So we're the anomaly that has to be gotten rid of. That's how I know we're not on just one list. We're not. I'm sorry. If you didn't know that, like, we're on several lists. But I mean, bro, you got to laugh to keep from crying, because that's where we're at. These people, they hate humanity. They hate the unborn child. They hate themselves. They hate themselves, bro. That's what it boils down to.
That's the saddest part of it.
Yeah.
And that they're delusional, and instead of getting these people help, they tell them, "Oh no, it's okay. You're right."
Merle, you tell that young man that he's a beautiful young woman. You do it. You do it right now, Merle. Because if you don't, you're a bad American.
Yep.
But I don't want to tell him that. I want to tell him it's okay to have these feelings he's having. He doesn't have to mutilate himself to fit into some crowd or some sort of a construct.
Yeah, he's okay just like he is.
Yeah, that he deserves love just as God made him to be. That this confusion or this misunderstanding of things doesn't have to lead him to mutilating himself or lead him into a spirit of fear and depression. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. You tell him he's a beautiful young lady, like we said. That's where we're at, bro. That's where we're at.
And what you certainly ain't going to tell him is the phytoestrogens in the soy formula he was given as a baby was what caused him to have that gender confusion, and the phytoestrogens in all the printer ink that they know is there that's contaminated our entire money supply, that you're carrying around in your pocket while you're sweating, and it's absorbing into your skin. It could possibly have anything to do with it.
You just put us on another list. I hope you know that. This is a Bigfoot channel. You just put us on another list, man. He's supposed to get, we give him a little bit of truth. They're tolerating that, but we've been punching the devil in his mouth for the past, I don't know how many weeks.
Oh Lord.
He's cutting off phone calls. He's dog cussing us on the phone call. He's piercing the spirit world to give us a good cussing. He don't like it. When you dwell in truth and when you seek truth, don't think that you're doing the wrong thing just because you're being attacked. You're being attacked because you're doing the right thing. If you're seeking the face of God, if you're bending consciously your will unto his, and you're being attacked, you're doing the right thing.
He even said, count yourself blessed to be found worthy to be persecuted for his name's sake.
Amen. And that's exactly right, folks. Tim Coonbo Baker, many of you, the folks from the Bigfoot, because we got a mixed crowd. It's not just Bigfoot and Dogman, folks. There's a gentleman named Tim Coonbo Baker I have 10 tons of respect for. I was talking to him a little bit earlier, and we're going to put something together for you. I know it, even if it's just written, but there's something special in the works. But I mean, truth is a powerful, powerful weapon, folks. And the adversary will do everything in their power to not only keep you from hearing truth, but to stop the ones who give it. They'll go from absolutely petty and nonsensical to wanting to take your life away from you for just telling what would seem to a believer to be something that everyone should know. It's the truth that's small in a sense, but there is no small truth, because when we speak of truth, we speak of him, the one who loved us and saved us. So don't think just because your ministry or that your walk or your work that you do for the kingdom is small or isn't as significant as this person or that person. If you are bending your will unto his, in no matter what aspect you're doing it, and presenting people with the truth, you're doing the good work, folks. You're doing the good work, and don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise. That's just my humble opinion. I mean, so yeah, Merle's pulled their pants down on the baby formula and how it's feminized a whole generation of people, that soy milk stuff, and so that's one list we're on. We bringing we showed that crazy law professor again, which they tried to cover that up quick, bro. They don't want themselves represented that way, even though they probably just had wine and cheese with that lady a day before that.
Yeah,
I mean, she's kind of pulling back the veil a little bit and saying, hey, we're kind of nuts, we're kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't there. And if our theory is right, that's probably why it's being pushed to the forefront. Because I mean, I don't remember what am I, 39? I don't remember being 29 and seeing anything similar to that mess. You know what I'm saying?
No, sir.
No, I mean,
There's never been anything like it in my lifetime that I know of.
No, and it's like 90 going north. John Kennedy, I could do a whole 8-hour show on John Kennedy smoking people's game.
Well, it just gets more outrageous by the day. I mean, everything's outrageous. And it's like they're trying to top themselves to the point that it's just gotten ridiculous. When you're going to put a man over the nuclear weapons of this country and all the nuclear facilities in this country that make power and everything else, and this man's, he's bald, he's got a mustache, and he wears a dress, a red dress half the time, and red lipstick. And he's getting arrested at airports, stealing people's luggage with these women's clothes in it. Thousands of dollars worth of designer dresses and stuff, stealing the stuff out the airport. And this man is over all the nuclear stuff in our country. Are you kidding me?
And he works for us. We pay his salary. It's not, he doesn't belong to some private country club or organization. Bro. But see, that's another reason, that's another point, proof positive, while this is taking place. They're pushing these people to the forefront and saying, you know what? They've been hiding this madness for a long time. Throw them out there, let them see this. Let them see what we see. Because, these people are what would you call them? Co-workers. They're at they go to the same water cooler. They go to the same family functions and all that kind of stuff and social events. And imagine the let's not even say Christian. Imagine the just reasonable agnostic senator and his wife and kids go to this law professor's house for some function. They're going to open the door. She's going to be walking on the roof with some druid doing some Gregorian chant or some madness with their altar set up to Papa Shango. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to open that door and then close it right back. That's crazy to anybody. Take your faith or religious leanings aside. Craziness is craziness.
And they put this person over the nuclear programs in this country. And then you've got the person that's over the Surgeon General, no less.
Yeah.
That's another dude up there wearing a dress.
And I don't think Merle's saying that these people, just because they decide to cross-dress, aren't intellectually capable of doing their job. That in my opinion, and I think he shares the same one, is an undiagnosed or undealt with. That's some sort of mental trauma, I believe.
Yeah.
And just the fact of how they're presenting themselves with it, it's not like organic. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem organic. It doesn't seem like this is how they're living their normal lives. They're either, number one, putting on some show, or two, lost in the sauce. And I'm leaning towards the latter.
Yeah, it's either a scripted farce.
Flim flam. Yeah.
Yeah. Or these people are delusional and they're dangerous.
And what I don't like is be delusional. This is America. You can be as delusional as you want. You can go and eat fried rats and pretend you're on Coney Island in the middle of the road for all I care. Just don't ask me to
But
pass
don't
you
put
the
them
mustard.
over the nuclear program. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't want somebody like that over the nuclear program in my country.
You know, you remember that Superman movie? What is it? I think it's the fourth one, where Superman decides to convince all the countries to give up their nuclear arms, and he takes them to like the sun or something. And then there's a fake Superman that Lex Luthor creates up there, and he smashes them out. And I have my own theories about the nukes and nuclear programs as well, but I'm not getting into that. That's a whole other show. But long story short, I agree with you wholeheartedly. People are taking lightly what should be taken seriously, and taking seriously what should be taken lightly, and that seems like it's the status quo, or that's what they're trying to push.
Even considered.
Yeah, I mean it's and on the back end of things, the Lord is still working. The Me Too movement, I wholeheartedly believe until that got kind of taken over, that was the Lord. Though the what's that internet group of they call themselves online freedom fighters, or they're called online terrorists, but they went into that Stacey Madison, is that what it's called? The website where these married people go and they cheat on each other, and the list was released. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then there was a
vaguely.
list. Yes, there was a list of child predators that for whatever reason weren't as they should be presented to the public. A lot of these were, people in prestigious positions locally. They threw that out there. I believe that a lot of that was the hand of the Lord as well. There's too much going on the back end of things where you can see the Holy Spirit moving, God's hand involved, and that university in Kentucky. It wasn't too long after that started. Them kids were there for 30 days, some of them. Waking up, praising the Lord, going to sleep, to wake up and do it all over again for over 30 days. People from all around the world, atheists and Satanists, came to that university looking to turn and rend everybody in sight, and came out with tears in their eyes and the new birth. That's important.
Amen.
That's special. But what the news present us? Oh, well, this is probably likely some scam that was created by some student that blah, blah, blah. So there is still the hand of the Lord moving through things, and in a big way. And
Oh yeah.
it's just
I
crazy
think
how
more than
people
ever.
see it. But yeah, I'd agree with that more than ever. There was a great awakening, they called it, and I believe it was the late 1800s, early 1900s. And when you read the personal writings of some of the people that were involved and that were alive at that time, they were saying they visibly saw the Holy Spirit underneath these tents move as mist and as heat waves and smoke. And they said you can step from underneath the tent, normal day, step in the tent, you're transported to somewhere else completely. And that's how prevalent the Holy Spirit was moving. I believe that what's taking place in smaller pockets, but it's expanding. I believe it's the exact same thing. That this nation and even this world is going to experience a great awakening and a new birth like the world has never seen since the days of Christ. I truly believe that. So let your heart not be troubled, folks. This is not the end. That's up to us. That's the thing that nobody understands. We have dominion here. The Lord works with us as we pray and give him our free will and do the work that he wants us to do for him. It's a reciprocal relationship. He's not Geppetto. He's not Geppetto. We're not Pinocchio. Well, D, you don't know anything about it. He allowed my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister and my wife and my husband to die. No, that ain't the truth. That's not the truth. So, anyways, this has been a fun show. And I'm sorry. I mean, I was told to start turning on my camera a little bit more. So I'm sorry for the folks that don't want to look at my handsome face throughout the entirety of the show. It'll be all right, I think. And I want to show you folks this AI stuff, right? There was and I'll find it for you. There was a very nasty comment, a little thing made. And I'm gonna tell you folks the truth. It hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings. What? I'm trying to be serious. It really starts laughing. But in all seriousness, folks, this hurt my feelings. And I'm a tough guy. It's hard to do. But this person, this nasty person, made a meme of some kind. And I'm going to show it to you before I even start explaining it. And I hate to even look at it again because it might bring me into tears, and I got this camera on. And I don't want to present myself like that to the folks. But it is what it is. We're going to translate truth as truth is. I'm going to show you this, and I want you to brace yourselves for it because this is something serious. And it ties into all this. Some of these folks are just they just got ugly hearts in them, folks. They got ugly hearts, and they're mean-spirited folks. And that ought not be so, but I can't help it, and you can't either. I mean, it is what it is. So let's see. We'll get to this dashboard right here. Welcome back, Merle. I'm glad to have you back, bud.
It's good to be back, brother. We'll have to do it more often.
Absolutely. Don't threaten me with a good time. And getting to the meat and potatoes of the real stuff, bro. I like this show because, we talk about monsters and whatnot because they're real, and then that stuff's pertinent. But to get into the really real of it all. Now, folks, I'm gonna show you this. Embrace yourselves, because, like I said, this is ugly, and it's mean. It's not a good thing. So, this person made this hateful meme about me, and like I said, it brace yourselves for it. All right. This guy, I think it's Shade Viking. My New Year's resolution will be I'm going to use less AI and more DW, and this is supposed to be me, folks. Now let me tell you, that hurts. That hurts. To this Shade Viking, I believe his name is, or Shell Viking, whatever your jabroni name is, I want to let you know it's mission accomplished because you hurt my feelings. You did. You hurt my feelings. And you hurt my feelings for the simple fact that if that's supposed to be my use of AI, you're lost in the sauce for real. I'm so savage. I mean, I look at myself in the mirror sometimes. I scare myself. I'm like, who's that dude? I ain't ever seen. Oh, that's me. I thought it was a savage sneaking through the window trying to come and lay harm to me or something. Folks, let me show you that. So you seen that's supposed to be Candy of the movie. What's the name of that movie? I can't even think.
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained.
That's Calvin Candy from Django Unchained, which I watched before. I like the film. I think it's a good send up to the old school spaghetti westerns. It really is. And I'm supposed to be Calvin Candy in that. Folks, this is my rendition. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that, Merle?
All I'm seeing is a blank screen.
All right. Well, doggone it. Let's do it this way then. They're going to cooperate with me. I'm done with it. I'm mad about it. These machines are going to do what I want, not what they want. Here it is. This is my rendition of the same picture. Now, Shade Viking, look at the difference between mine and yours. It catches the essence, my eyes, my nose. This is how I use AI because I'm a super savage. I'm just simply better than you. You continue to go ahead and be the audience, okay? And I'm going to continue to be that super savage that these people like to listen to, because I'm giving them facts. And the best thing you can do is attack people and get 2 or 3 likes on Facebook. So calm down a little bit. All right. It hurt my feelings that you would misrepresent my artistic flair. And not just that, Shade Viking. Let me show you something else. Let me show you, I'm just a little example. This is I'm sorry, my bad, folks. Let me get this is serious. This is a serious matter. Let me calm down. Because I'm telling you, Merle, it dug right into me. It hit me right in the feels, and I didn't know what to do with myself.
It hits you right in the feels, didn't it?
Yeah, I was distraught for weeks. I wouldn't come out of my room, tossing and turning at night. I just couldn't imagine how somebody would do something so ugly. And now see, look, Shade Viking, this is me as Iron Man. This is me as Iron Man, Shade Viking. You see how awesome that is? Like, so you should probably stop. Folks.
Now you know what you got to do, right?
I do.
You got to make the same meme and do it right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just when I saw that, I was like, man, that's not me. It doesn't even look somewhat like me. Like, come on now. And folks, the tobacco I'm smoking tonight is Dawson tobacco. When you're in Oklahoma, you can get your own bag. I've had too much fun in the better part of 10 years in this field. You know, I've met some great people, great brothers and sisters in the faith. Lifelong friends and brothers and sisters. And folks, I'm glad you're on this journey with us, because the first 10 years was just that's the precipice. That was just the buildup. Here, I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see some things in this field, this cryptid field, get exposed that you never even thought of, that you never took into consideration. And I feel very well blessed to even have the smallest little bit of a hand in that. There's remarkable people that are in this field that don't get their just dues. They really don't. Tim Kumbo Baker being one of them. Everybody knows how knowledgeable this man is, but they don't really understand how knowledgeable he is of the Word of God. And he's our brother in the faith. He doesn't, I mean, which is fine. This is America. Your faith and your religion is a private thing. And I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but this man has a sincere love of the Lord and has built things over in Africa in these villages where these kids are being thrown to crocodiles just so their parents will go in these mines. He's built them aqueducts and irrigation systems, designed them so they can get fresh water into their village. And he's a remarkable man. I have 10 tons of respect for him. And out of anybody in this field, as far as the field research goes, I consider him one of my role models, so to speak. And I'm glad that he stopped by here. And again, keep him in your prayers. But other than that, to display again, and that's just a part of it. I was doing that kind of as a display of what we have for consumer. What would you call it? Like what the consumer has. John Q. Public has as far as like AI and stuff. It's getting remarkable, folks. And in that, I did have a message from you. As you know, President Trump has taken on Fred Flintstone as his vice presidential candidate. And I have an exclusive behind the scenes. You will never see it anywhere else. Because, of course, I'm their campaign manager. I have an exclusive behind the scenes video that we're going to leave you with as we say goodbye. You gonna take some questions before we jump off here? Anybody have any questions or comments? Put them in all caps if you would, so we can see them. They'll jump off as it's not. Because most of y'all know that. I'll go see if we missed anything. The chat didn't move that much either, if you noticed that, bro. People were actually listening to. Yeah. I used to think that we fell offline when I see that, but that's people actually like listening. And there you go. This has to be a psyop. There's DW again. Oh man, this has to be a psyop. I agree,
Yeah,
Every story. That
me
sums
and
it
you
all up.
both.
That sums up this whole 2 hour show up. It has to be. What else is it? Everything we're seeing that they're presenting to us is either a big piece or even a microscopic piece of this massive psyop. I don't see. I mean, I don't believe nothing they say. They being
No,
anybody who they're presenting to me, I don't believe a word they say. I mean, it used to be where I looked at the opposite. You know, I'd say, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And we proved that. Well, the Lord proved that. I ain't gonna take credit from him. The Lord proved in the moment when the submersible incident happened. You know, we dug into it. We saw that this guy had not one but two signers of the Declaration of Independence as his direct ancestors. And in the moment, I said, there has to be something else going on. There has to be, because this was on every channel. They stopped the American way of life to focus on the submersible. These billionaires going underwater to go into the Titanic crash. And as soon as I click to the front page of YouTube, we see who, Merle?
oh Modi
Oh, Modi. Madman Modi, the superstar,
giving
on
the
the
New
floor of
World
this,
Order speech.
and using those words, talking about this, I forget the new name of it, but it's the law of the sea, right?
Yeah, the Law of the Sea Treaty,
Yep. And he was saying
or
how
the
this,
TPP is the new name of it, the
yeah, the TPP.
Trans-Pacific Partnership,
Yep. The
where they're
same
going to
thing, just a
transfer the
different name.
sovereignty of every nation into the hands of corporate fat cats
Corporate
to
entity.
decide.
Yep.
Yeah, to decide what's the law and what ain't, and who can do what.
And if you had a rowboat out on the sea, you're subject to having everything turned upside down. Without you, you can't question nothing. You just get out of the way and let them do it. And what was curious to me is India. It was us and India at the very top of that list. Not hell Britannia. Britannia rules the waves. It was us and India. And when you start looking at it in these companies that are in America and India, kind of starts making sense.
Yeah.
But Modi gave a speech that would make George H.W., it would bring a tear to his eye with all that New World Order jargon he was spitting.
Getting a standing ovation from
Yeah,
both houses of Congress,
them shouting his name like he was
like a
one of the
rock
Beatles.
star.
Bro, that
Yeah,
was ooky spooky.
on both sides of the aisle, no less.
In a time in American history when they couldn't agree on what toilet paper they wanted in the congressional bathrooms. Bro, and that didn't go away. You know what I'm saying? They snuck that
Yeah,
in there during this whole submersible thing, and then it just kind of disappears. Now I mention that, that's something to do a follow up on, ain't
yeah. If you want your computer to start crashing,
it? Oh yes. Should we be talking about? I think if we talk about that, we're getting on another list, bro. I mean,
yeah.
I'll do it. Since it happened to you, I can tell them. Folks, we were, we were trying to put together a video so we could present all of this to you. We're going to put it in narrative form and just show you everything that was going on with the submersible thing, how at the same time Modi's on the floor of the Senate, they're giving him standing ovations, and Merle was doing the Modi part of it, right? And his computer kept crashing. I was like, oh, he's lost in the sauce. I downloaded. I was able to download the video that he was trying to download. And we didn't talk about it for a few days. And went back to look for it. Gone. Video not there. I have a pretty good memory. I distinctly, and after that, I just thought of this. That's when Media Human stopped working on my computer altogether. No matter how many times I downloaded it and put it back on. Media Human is a video downloading software.
Yep.
They said, "No, son, you don't understand. You're done.
The
You're gonna
crazy
leave this
thing is,
alone."
I got it to download. I edited the whole video together, and when I tried to put it in the Dropbox for you to take a look at it, it deleted the Modi footage out of the video. The rest of the video went,
Oh, I remember that.
but
Stuff
it
like that I
deleted it
consciously
out.
put out of my mind. I mean, because that's too
That was
specific.
crazy.
Yeah, bro. Wish you could see my arm. Like See, we ain't even talked about that since that stuff, bro. That's weird. I mean, that's not normal. You know what
No,
I'm
it ain't
saying?
normal.
Like, and the fact that they could do that, they use, let's see, the media human software with me. They use VideoPad with you, because remember, VideoPad kept like
Yeah.
going bananas.
And CapCut. VideoPad and CapCut.
And so 2 different video editing software,
Yep.
1 video downloading software, and a file sharing software that's online. So it shouldn't have any of these problems that a downloadable software would.
Yeah.
And
I can't share anything to that Dropbox no more.
Man, bro, I wouldn't even use that. I wouldn't look at that Dropbox anymore. Hey, Curly Crafter's back. Great to see you again, Curly Crafter from Texas. But folks, I would say that's kind of supernatural. I don't think I'm jumping the mark by saying that. There's no way, and I know about video editing and stuff, folks. Let me tell you something. There's no way you could use a file sharing service like Dropbox and it go inside of an already rendered and completed video and remove certain scenes from it. Yeah, I wish I hadn't brought that up. I don't want to tell them about the other thing, the Urch-Che of the Opera-Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not mention that. We might wake up in the hospital or something tomorrow. But folks, we're gonna give it to you. We're gonna give you that really real. And we're grateful for everybody who's, I mean, the live chat's getting bigger, you know, on just random live chats I open up. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all.
Regardless, that video is getting done and we're putting it up. You know that, right?
Yeah. I'll claim that. I claim that victory in the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. How about you?
Amen, brother. If I have to put it on a USB stick and hitchhike.
Yeah, right. we take the Underground Railroad, reopen the Underground Railroad just to get it here. I mean, because
goodness,
that's too weird. It's just too weird. That's obvious. They don't want people having that information translated for them, because they do all this weird witchy talk. You know what I'm saying? They double talk, and they don't give you what's really going on. They hide it in language. So when somebody wants to present it as is and give people the truth of what's going on, no, they ain't having that. Who do we think we are?
No, sir.
You Jesus people in your truth. Oh man. So folks, this is again just displaying AI. Actually, I'll hold off on that. I'll talk to Vice Presidential candidate Fred Flintstone and make sure that he really wants to put this information out there. It may not be time for it yet, is all I'm saying. But again, I appreciate each and every last one of you guys. God bless y'all. Thank you for joining this episode of The Early Show, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Good to see everybody.
Yep, and welcome.
And God bless.
Thank you again.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, me too, especially after all this meddling we're doing with their affairs.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
Let every soul be subject to a higher power, for there is no power but that of God.
Did y'all see that mess? They did me dirty on my outro. No, I'm not having that. Again, see you next time.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
Let every soul be subject to a higher power, for there is no power but that of God.